Right, to commemorate the International Data Privacy Day, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, together with the Information Regulator, hosted a dialogue under the theme Strategic Partnerships for Promotion and Protection of Children's Rights Online. The dialogue aimed to promote the children's online rights and ensuring safe, inclusive and equitable digital environments where children will participate freely without fear of digital gender-based violence. Full-time member responsible for the POP here at the Information Regulator, Adv Collen Weapond, joins us for more. Adv Weapond, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, the importance of good data protection practices come under sharp focus as nations mark International Data Privacy Day, with the Information Regulator being South Africa's data privacy enforcer. What's your focus this year?
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me. The Information Regulator has decided that we will focus this year on what we would call age assurance, and the age assurance specifically is part of how we would like to envisage online safety for school children. And just to also confirm that the Minister of Basic Education was part of our discussions, and she participated, and as well as the Deputy Minister, as you referred to, and the Information Regulator. So these are partnerships that we are forming and that we are going to strengthen. But age assurance in the main relates to how social media, social platforms providers are going to ensure that there is safety mechanisms, both technical as well as educational, so that children and their rights are protected online.
Children are spending more time online than ever before, and they are getting there sooner. So Data Privacy Day is a good chance to reflect on how much can change in a space of a year. What have you noted insofar as trends are concerned?
Basically, we have noted, specifically within the South African context and the South African environment, that there's a much higher uptake of children, and the question and the focus is then what is happening internationally. And very importantly, we also noted that the age of consent for the international spectrum is between 13 and 16, whereas South Africa has a strict requirement of 18 years or older. And what is also very important is the fact that children are not always as protected within the South African context when accessing social platforms as opposed to those that are in other parts of the world.
And technology advancements and data governance frameworks are not moving at the same pace, which then shows that there are gaps, there are loopholes. What kind of interventions are needed to enhance children's rights?
Yes, so that's a very important point that you are raising. So one of the key questions and discussions is, will our law have to be amended? And the question was posed, and what the Information Regulator can safely say is that we are monitoring international developments, but what we're also doing in the South African context is to continuously assess if our law is adequate, if there are gaps, and very importantly, we also need to strike a balance between regulation and over-regulation, and also ensuring that our law is fit for purpose, but very importantly, what other measures can we also include, like guidelines, like guidance notes, and various other interventions that we can maybe assess and also implement within the South African context. But there's also a very important aspect of all of this, and the key question would be, what are we observing with regards to research that have been conducted? There was some interesting research that was presented by Web Rangers, and they've confirmed that there are some lapses within the South African spectrum when it comes to social media providers.
What's to be learned from some of the international developments that you've been watching and you continue to watch very closely?
So one of the key developments is that the European Union, for instance, is considering and implementing additional legislation that will focus on online safety for children. We also note some of the developments which are linked to this, and that's the regulation on artificial intelligence. But where we are now is to also ensure that we study and continuously track changes and developments so that we can enhance, where possible, our law, so that our law and our responses are in sync with what is happening on the international platforms.
Yeah, and as you look towards that, I mean, what are some of the concerns in this space as you, were in these discussions and looking at reports and trying to find some sort of interventions as you look to the changes that can be made in terms of policy?
So one of the key things is that you would find that parents are supposed to ensure that they use the settings to ensure that their children are not exposed. But what about the question which relates to child-headed households? And what is also very importantly is the fact that consent is continuously required, and some of the kids or children who access the social media platforms might, in some instances, misrepresent their age, and then deliberately so that they can gain access to these social media platforms. But we've also noted that artificial intelligence could assist where you need to look at verification and various other methods to confirm if we are dealing with a person below the age of 18 or a person above the age of 18, which is the actual age of consent in South Africa.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening as we wrap up that discussion with Information Regulator Advocate Collen Weapond, speaking about the significance of International Data Privacy Day and the focus really being on children's rights, protecting children online.